Last year, I made a video where I invented my own football team. I called them the Orlando Ostriches, and I figured it'd be kind of a fun exercise to see if I could create a real-world NFL team and how well would it go. I created rules in terms of how I can sign players, how it works in the draft, and we had our first season where it went okay. This is each positional group and where we ranked in terms of each tier. The Ostriches actually had a pretty solid passing game. Also, the passing tier should be tier 3, not tier 2. That's what it is. It's tier 3. It's 1 out of 5, with 1 being the best, 5 being the worst. Bailey Zappi was someone who I drafted, even though I already drafted Matt Corral. Corral obviously got injured, so Zappi was now the full-time starter and did solid for us. Was a tier 3 quarterback throughout the season. My offensive line, which that is tier 2, was picked up of many different kind of veteran players, but was still able to have some success and actually be a pretty good offensive line. Receiving core pumped a lot of resources into it. Unfortunately, did not. It was underwhelming. The running game was kind of bad by design. I purposely didn't put much resources into it, but it wasn't terrible either. It was not the worst in the league, but was tier 5. Run defense, coverage, and pass rush was all a mess. Defense did not go too well, and I'm going to show the actual players in just a second and talk about why things went wrong. But as a whole, we were not a defensive team. Our offense was okay, defense not so much. Kicking was good, tier 2 kicking, which meant the total wins we had in 2022 was 6.37, which, hey, for a first-year team that doesn't get to, only has one draft, that we don't get, we haven't been drafting for years, I'm not mad at this. Us in the Orlando Ostriches organization knew it was going to take some time to really get to be in a playoff contention scenario, but as of right now, we feel okay about where we're at. But okay, time to move forward now. First, these are the free agents we lost. It's a long list, which might seem tough, but a lot of these guys were kind of flyers and not players I was really expecting to do too much, almost roster fillers. A couple of players I liked. Billy Turner was a tackle who didn't play well, but he was a starting tackle for us. DJ Chark was good. He lived up to his contract, I thought. Clowney did some nice things. A couple of safeties who were solid as a whole. We signed Odell. He did not play for us last year, as it turns out. But, stuff like that was, we lost some players, but not necessarily a ton of valuable players. So we have some cap space to work with. This offseason, these are the players that we decided to sign. Just 7 guys, but I think some key pieces. We spent $52.5 million per year on these players. Just a reminder of how it works when you sign someone. If you want to play along at home, you can sign someone to the contract that they were signed to, but it costs 10% extra to sign them. So, for example, if a player signed a 1-year, $10 million contract, you can sign them to an $11 million a year contract, and you can add extra years if you want to, but you cannot take off extra years if you want to. That's the way that it works. So anyways, Calvin Beachum, who again, kind of a veteran tackle, who kind of going with my veteran offensive lineman strategy of just get guys who are solid, don't have the ton of upside, but will be solid. And again, offensive line was the best thing about my team last year. Taylor Rapp, lost some safeties, so need another one. He's typically a very good safety, so getting him for under $2 million, this is why you don't go out and draft a safety in the first round, right? Because you can typically get good safeties for cheap in free agency. TJ Edwards, spent a little bit of money on him, $7.1 million for a linebacker, but you know what? He was really good for the Eagles these past few years. He's now in real life on the Bears, but I think he'll, we paid him a little extra to get him on the Ostriches, and hopefully he will play well for us. We re-signed DJ Chark for another year. Could not let him out of the building. He was really good last year in a smaller role. We hopefully, now that he's fully healthy, playing for the Panthers, could do well for us. Jacoby Myers is another guy I decided to go out and sign. Again, I value the wide receiver position very heavily, so since that was such a disappointment last year, wanted to add another guy in the room. And it wasn't terrible last year. It was tier 4, but still, want to get that up to at least like tier 3 or tier 2. Also, the cornerback room, have to help out the corners after last year. Signed Patrick Peterson and Jamel Dean, adding an extra $20 million a year to that room that I'm already spending a ton of. Already put a ton of resources into that cornerback situation. But you know what? I think it's very important. So paying those guys. So those are the free agents that we signed. As for the draft, it's not a lot of picks. Not a lot of picks at all. We only had 5 picks since I gave up a couple of picks in the Amari Cooper trade last year. So only had 5 picks, and I traded 3 of them for the number 3 overall pick to select CJ Stroud, which, listen, some people are going to say, wait a second, how does CJ Stroud go to number 3? Trust me, I was just as surprised as you were. I do it, I start the mock draft, and then I just go, and this was something where, I was pleasantly surprised to find out that CJ Stroud was still there at number 3. I was probably going to do this if Anthony Richardson was there at number 3, but CJ Stroud fell, and I like him better, so happy about that. But I still would have done it with Richardson as well, I think. I was debating back and forth, but then once Richardson was selected, I believe it was number 1 overall, then I'm like, okay, great, let's go with Stroud here at 3. Again, if this is something where, let's say, for example, CJ Stroud fell to me at number 8, which that's why it's, side note, that's why it's the Falcons at the top, because they picked number 8. That's where our win total would have had us picking. So I just used them for the mock draft simulator. But had Stroud fell to me at 8, I would have just refreshed it, because obviously that would never happen. But him falling to 3 feels plausible to me. People have started to turn on him a bit. Also drafted a couple interior defensive linemen who have nice analytics later on, because again, had to use a first, second, and third round pick to get up to number 3 to select Stroud. So Kobe Turner, Jonah Tavai, both have good analytics, so I'm interested in seeing how they will work out. Also, you see at the bottom, there's a trade with picks. You can disregard that. That's just because, the Falcons have added some extra picks, and I had to get rid of those to make the mock draft work. So that's all that is. So let's look at my roster now. And heading into year 2, where are we at? Well, CJ Stroud is now the starting quarterback. Still have Matt Corral and Bailey Zappi, so a lot of young quarterbacks. But, CJ Stroud, who cost $9.5 million, kind of reminds you that, these high-up picks cost you a bit of money per year, but you know what? If I think it's worth it for Stroud's potential, I'm totally fine with that contract and giving up that capital to get him. But even if it doesn't work out, I have some plan Bs and even a plan C currently. As for the receiving core, I like it a little better than last year. Obviously, the Allen Robinson signing just was a complete bust and sucked. But, Amari Cooper was good last year, should be good. Maybe Robinson can pick something up in return to form. Alec Pierce still on his rookie deal, didn't grade overly well his first year, but I could see some improvements. DJ Chark, as I said, I liked what he did last year. And I think Jacoby Myers is really underrated, and I'm really happy that for only $12.1 million, I'm able to get him. Again, only cost $11 million in real life for the Raiders. So I'm happy about this receiving core. I feel like it could be a step up from last year, and definitely think the quarterback play has a chance to be a step up from last year, even if it wasn't a mess last year. As for the rest of the offense, again, you see my offensive line play from, tackle to center to tackle. Again, you got Cullen Beachum, Ted Carreras, Ben Jones, Mark Glanowski, and Morgan Moses, all who, the 4 guys that were here last year actually all played pretty well. The one, issue I replaced in free agency, so hopefully it could even be better than it was last year. Tight ends, nothing crazy there. Jimmy Ruckert, who I drafted last year, also Jordan Atkins, who, didn't do a ton last year. And my only running back on the roster right now, Kyron Williams. As for the defense, starting off with the defensive line, currently my edge rushers, it's a bit weak, I'm not going to lie. This entire defensive line is a bit weak, and again, that's kind of an area where I'm okay with it not being as great. I want to pump my resources into the cornerback play and the receiver play, and then hopefully, if I can get stars in those spots, then I can kind of work on the front 7 defensively. But Drake Jackson and Cameron Thomas, who both showed flashes as rookies, hopefully they can step it up in year 2. We also have a ton of young players, Neil Farrell and CJ Wright, both were players who I drafted last year, late in rounds, and then Kobe Turner and Jonah Tavai. Basically, I'm taking a lot of late round flyers on these interior defensive linemen. Hopefully some work out. As for the rest of the defense, definitely a lot of players. You can see how much resources I'm pumping in to that coverage unit. The J.C. Jackson contract, as of right now, looks rough. I'm not devastated by it just yet. So he got hurt last year, barely played. Didn't look good when he played, but it was such a small sample size. I have not given up on J.C. Jackson just yet, but it's such an important position. I want to make sure that we're covered. So, we still have Levi Wallace and Casey Hayward next year. They have potential to do some things, but with Derek Stingley, who did not have a great rookie year, maybe he can turn it on year 2. I still have Patrick Peterson and Jamel Dean, who I have brought along. And basically, with these 6 different players, my hope is that 3 of them can play well, and those will be my starters, and we can then have a good coverage unit in 2023. A lot of resources, but if it pays out, and works out, then this could be awesome. Safeties I trust will be good. Brian Cook and Taylor Rapp. I feel pretty confident those guys will do all right. Alexander Johnson at the linebacker position didn't play. He didn't play much last year. He looked good when he played. He just didn't play much. And so adding TJ Edwards, the hope is that those two guys can play well. And maybe the front seven has a little bit of issues, but the coverage unit can be good enough that, even if the front seven isn't great, the defense can still be solid. Also, I have Younghoe Koo, and I just remembered I didn't really explain what you're looking at with this chart, so sorry about that. But just you see how it says 7.3 three times. That means that for the next 3 years, he's getting paid $7.3 million a year. Hopefully you were able to get that. Also, I have 19 replacement level players. Those are they guarantee you to get a replacement level PFF grade a year. That's the guarantee, and it costs $1 million a year. So again, kind of have to, fudge the numbers a little bit. Not fudge the numbers, but, come up with a workaround a little bit to make this game work. But there you go. My overall money spent is $237.4 million. The salary cap is $224.8 million, which you might be saying, wait a second, you went over the salary cap. Well, yeah, you can go over the salary cap. The average team spends 10 to 15 million over the salary cap. That's where I'm at. And I went under the salary cap last year, so I'm sure my owner is going to be okay with paying just a little bit over this year because I was good last year and didn't do it. So that's the Orlando Ostriches year 2. Hopefully we can, maybe make the playoffs next year, but at least compete for a playoff spot. That's our goal. But yeah, those are my thoughts. What are yours? Let me know in the comments below. Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.